Hi everyone, welcome to a new tutorial project here on Patreon. This month I want to do it a little bit differently. I have done a lot of portrait drawings in the past, just using one reference and trying to create a drawing as similar as possible. But this month I want to do something a little bit more original, and I'm going to work in pastels again. So I want to do a marine wildlife scene with turtles in it and maybe some dolphins as well, but I'm not sure. I have chosen several different references, and from those I'm going to create one scene. So it will be a little more imaginary. It will take a little bit more creativity to create this one. And you can, of course, just follow along exactly as I do, but you can also choose to move things around or leave out certain things. You can totally decide for yourself. And I'm really looking forward to doing this project. So let's get started. I have taken about 10 by 12, or maybe it's 11 by 13 inches of dark gray pastel mat. I've taped it around the edges, and I'm using like a board to tape my paper onto so I can move it around quite easily. And I'm going to use pastel pencils for the details, but also pastel sticks. So I have these ones from Faber-Castell, which I really like. I got these quite recently and I've been really enjoying them. So I'll be using these two for the sea probably, and the larger details. And as I said, I have picked out several different references. For the shapes and the angles of the turtles, I have picked out 2 references. All the references I picked are from Pixabay, so they are all royalty free. It's very important, even when you're mixing photos together, that you are using royalty free photos. Even picking a small part of a non-royalty free photo is not legal. So make sure to use royalty free photos always. And I'm going to do freehand sketching this time. So I'm not tracing. When combining photos, I like to freehand, so I have a little bit more options or more freedom, I would say, to sketch and see where I want everything to be. So let's get started with the first turtle. I'm using a light gray pencil, Stabilo pencil, to sketch. This is number 110. I like to use this one instead of white because it's a little, I feel, less opaque than the white. It's easier to draw on top on with other colors later on. Alright, let's start sketching. And if you're not comfortable with sketching right onto the pastel mat or your pastel paper, you can also sketch the sketch onto another piece of paper and then use transfer paper to put it onto the pastel paper. And I'm going to sketch directly onto it because I feel like it's a really good practice and gain more confidence when it comes to sketching freehand. I want to put that one, the first one, about there, I feel. And the second one somewhere in the center. Then if I have some space left, I want to put some fish or some dolphins in the background. But the focus has to be on the turtles, I feel. I've never drawn turtles before. Very fun. I want his head to be right there. So I'm going to start sketching his head. I'm using very light pressure and my pencil is quite sharp. And right away I'm trying to get the shape right, so I'm not starting off with like basic circles. That's also a good technique to do, but I want to put down as few lines as possible because I don't want to erase that much. Looking at the shape of his head. So this is his eye area. trying to sketch from my arm and not necessarily from my wrist to keep the shapes loose. So that's the shield. Is that what you call it in English? Dutch, you call it the shield. This is the neck area. I'm really trying to use fluent motions and very light pressure. And then it's also easier to correct certain lines. This is his cheek area, and then right below you have the mouth line. I'm not putting in any details yet. Then we have the paws and the belly. So this photo was really good just to see the shape of the turtle. But when it comes to the colors, I'm going to use other reference photos because I feel like the colors don't really match the colors that you see on the turtle when it is in the sea. I want to have more blue and purple shades on it, as I'm going to make the water really blue as well. And it has to fit together, otherwise it's just not believable. Belly area. Trying to copy the shapes as I see them as good as I can. I made him a little fat. Let's make him a little bit slimmer. The belly is sticking out a bit too much. I'm not going to use the eraser. I think I'm just going, when I finish the sketch, I'm going to fill in the whole sea area. And then I can go over the gray. That will go pretty easily. So that's the basic shape of the body. The edge of the shield is right there. And then we have the flippers, the front paws and the hind paws. Let's start with this one. So turtles are not very complicated when it comes to anatomy, but you have to look very closely. Make sure the angles are correct. Flipper is quite large. We'll come to about there, I feel. And then start right next to the eye. I tried to keep the shapes really flowy, as it is a marine scene, so I want it to be very dreamy like and flowy. And I want to put some surrealism into it as well. So it's not going to be a photorealistic drawing. And it doesn't have to be exactly like the reference photos at all. Then the other one starts, we have the neck there. The other one starts right there. And then you can compare, see how far it sticks out compared to the edge of the shield. Till about there, I feel, and then it curves around. So for most of my tutorial projects, I trace the outlines because it just saves a lot of time. But it's also very important to practice this, the freehanding, as it is such an important part of learning how to draw. If you can do this, the coloring process will be so much easier as you learn to see shapes and you learn to understand anatomy. And if you understand that, you understand colors better as well as and contrast. Let's see, the shape of this flipper is quite complicated. You can actually see a little toe there. You have that on the other one as well. So that's quite important to put in. It very slowly. And then the hind paws. Little toe again. And by the way, also thank you so much for your support the past months. I was so busy the past months and I was behind schedule all the time, but I'm so glad you guys stuck with me. Hopefully I can pick it up a little better. This project is not going to be as time consuming as the dog I did in May and June. And I hope then after this one I am back on schedule again, and then I can do another time consuming project. But I did a pastel one. I'm doing a pastel one right now on purpose because it's a little bit more relaxing for me and a little less time consuming, but you can still create such a good drawing or such a colorful drawing in a shorter time than you would with colored pencils. Not feeling totally happy with the shape of this paw. It's a little bit too large. But I don't want to go over the lines too many times with the pencil because I don't want to saturate the paper. So I'm just going to make the toes a little shorter. Then I'm going to leave it like this. And then the rest I'm going to adjust when filling in the water. Now the other one. That one starts below the other fin. Somewhere right there. Okay, so let's give an indication of the eyes. You can't see the eyes that well. They are on the side of the face. A little bit closer together. Then let's add some detail on the shield. Some of the patterns. Drawing in those light lines you see on the shield. Very lightly because I want to add other colors on top when doing the coloring. Very basic shapes, as you can see. drawing some of the wrinkles in the skin. And I'm slightly adjusting some of the lines. And then the sketch is done. I'm keeping it fairly basic. And I'm going to move on to the second turtle. So I am keeping the patterns the same on the skin, but the colors I'm going to change from the reference photo. I'm going to use other photos. Not completely copying the reference photo, I'm just doing something similar. Little bit of the pattern on the other flipper as well. Not sure I have to say paws or flippers or fins. They're still paws, right? Right, okay. Let's move on to the other one. Let's sharpen the pencil again. Alright, the second one is from the front, and it's actually the same turtle, I feel, because these photos are taken by the same person. And the patterns seem pretty much the same, so I think it's the same turtle. But in the drawing, I want to make them a little bit different, so it's actually two different turtles instead of the same one. Let's see where I want to put that one. Maybe underneath the other one, and a little bit smaller, so it is a little bit more pushed to the back, or maybe there. No, I think below the other one. I'm looking at the composition a little bit. I want to keep in mind where I want the viewer's eye to go, and I don't want to put a turtle right towards the edge too much, because that takes the viewer's eye off the paper. So I want to keep the eye more or less in the center. This one has to stand out the most, and then the other one would be the thing that you would look at secondly. Yeah, so below this one. And smaller. I'm going to draw the basic shape of the body first. Or maybe above. No, below. Drawing in the edge of the shield. Right in the center you'll have the head. Looks pretty funny like this. Then the head is quite round. It starts right below the edge of the shield. The mouth is just below the center line. Keeping it very basic. This one is going to be less detailed as well when it comes to the coloring than the other one. To create some depth in the drawing. And let's draw in the eye areas. Then I can refine that later on. little nostrils. And then let's draw in the flippers. Then the other one, still keeping the shapes very basic. Actually, what I also want to start doing is you can actually donate some money to all the photographers on Pixabay. You're not obliged to, but I think I want to start doing that. Just donating a couple of dollars to every artist that I use photos from. For these tutorials. Whoops. Want to make sure that I don't make the flippers too thick because they're from the front, of course, and then they're quite slim actually from the front, so want to make sure that I don't make them too thick. And the hind paws, we have a little tiny one sticking out here. Looks a little funny. Then the other one. All right, and then some of the patterns, some of the most important patterns. Going to draw in. All right, so what do you think? Shall I add more animals? For the water, I have another reference that I will list all the references that I'm using below, so you can also find those. So I found a good reference for the water. Actually, I was also planning on using the turtle there as a reference, but then I zoomed in and I saw that the turtle was actually cut out and pasted onto the water reference. So I'm not sure who made it or who the photographer was of the turtle. So I didn't dare to use the turtle as a reference, but the water I'm going to use. So you have all the ripples there, the surface of the water you can see, which I'm also going to draw in. But I'll do that when I start filling in the background. So this is the basic sketch. If I'm going to do any other animals, I will probably draw them on top of the background, because other animals that I want to put in there are going to be more faded and more in the background. So I can just draw them on top of the background if I want to. So this is basically it for the sketch, and let me know in the comments below if I should put in more animals later. So this part is going to be the sketch, which is part 1, which I will put up as soon as possible so you can still react in the comments for more animals. So I hope you like this part, and then I'll see you in part 2.